Yep, still got it. Alright, so if I'm ever going to revive this old channel, I might as well start by following through on some of the old series I never finished. And this one was in surprisingly high demand after I asked the audience how they felt about it, even after the newer version of the game came out. So, let's start flying around another age of realMYST. Just like before, I'm starting off our explorations with the zero gravity setting upon linking in, which means we're floating up a little higher than normal gameplay. Remember, this is fly mode, not God mode, so I can't directly control any movement up or down. So now we're too high up to reach the console there. But we're also not quite high enough to peek over the chasm walls. Of course, if you've watched the earlier videos in this series, you know that once we bring ourselves higher by doing something like this, for better or worse, we aren't coming back down when we walk away. And look at that. Already got our first faulty rendering. I suppose due to the non-standard way we got here. I wouldn't have thought it was that different, but I guess it was enough. Anyway, notice it's not just missing the lava though, it's actually replaced it with the waves of the ocean. However, it turns out that... By the way, I didn't even know this until recently, but this is a real path in the game that cuts through here that's separate from the normal path, which uses these extra stairs. I guess there's a little hill here that gets in the way? I don't know. Anyway, I was saying it turns out if you stand on some spot like here or so, then you look at the chasm, the lava comes back. But the ocean is still there too. Interesting they put the lava pretty much exactly at sea level. Really, it should probably be quite a bit lower than that. Now, I've gotten some criticism for doing stuff like this. It always goes something like, well, of course the game is broken. You broke it and now broken things are happening. What did you expect? But the point is the way it breaks is what's so interesting, you know? What are the exact actions that cause all these particular rendering effects and why? It's like dissecting a frog. Sure, this one's dead and maybe you're technically not supposed to be pulling it apart like that, but now we have a better idea how the live ones function. It's not that hard of a concept. Now, there isn't much to say about the clock tower that's fly mode related, but have you ever stopped to look at how the hands work? It might be different in other versions, but in this one, the minute hand is always trying to get to the 7, but it always falls back to the 6. Unfortunately, when I recorded my Let's Play series back in the day, I never faced the tower long enough to watch it fall back down. That's been bothering me for years, so finally I can make peace with it. Meanwhile, the hour hand does make it around the clock face. It just moves up a number every, I don't know, 30 seconds or something. Yep, that was worth it. Alright, so far fly mode hasn't really meant much because we've essentially been stuck in the same confines as normal gameplay, just higher up. The escape from that, though, is right around the corner, over here at the end of the path by the wind tunnel. No, I don't think it was something intentionally hidden away or anything like that. It looks like it just has to do with the fact we don't lose our altitude anymore when the stairs lead down. See, there's an invisible wall that's been keeping us from going out over the water, but if it's the same height above the path everywhere, then suddenly we're high enough to go over it at the pier. So I guess this pier finally proves itself useful. It's too bad the draw distance is so short in this age. I suppose it's to mimic a fog effect, but I'm guessing the real reason is to keep from having too many elements clogging up the memory of an old machine. Since the walkable areas of the map go all the way around the island, it's not like they could draw only the front half of anything like we saw with the mechanical fortress. Sometimes flying around is good for just looking at everything from a new angle and getting a better sense of where everything is. It isn't always just about breaking the game. See, this is probably the best view you've ever had of the waterfall here. From the ground, you have to kind of peek over the edge from the side. I mean, it's not like you couldn't tell what it was doing or anything, but whatever. The point still stands. The new angles put everything in a new light. Well, it's starting to get dark, so I don't know how that's going to work out now. Maybe that won't ruin everything. Obviously, the silence back here doesn't seem very natural. I can't say for sure why this happens, but here's my guess. First of all, this has always happened in the past as we've flown off into the void away from all the landmarks. What stands out here is just how quickly it's happening. In general, while ambient sounds have always been assigned to specific areas, of course, the exact boundaries usually don't really matter for the in-game experience. However, many sounds for this age in particular have to be kept very localized as an essential part of the puzzle. The waterfall here is one example. So I'm guessing they maintained tight sound borders when building the entire age, but not because they cared, but because they didn't care. It always looked to me like there was more terrain over here than this. I guess it was an illusion based on whatever angles I could get looking at it from by the door. I have to be careful. I have to make sure I don't wander back over the main path, or else I'll end up stuck over there again. Look at how close to the ground the clouds turn out to be. I guess something about their size and speed of movement allows them to be much smaller and closer than they look. Kind of the opposite of the generator on Mist Island, where everything turned out to be much bigger and farther away than it appeared. Or maybe my brain just always assumes clouds are far away and I stop thinking about it. Also, the clouds kind of curve down towards the edge of the map here, so it's kind of exaggerated. Speaking of the edge of the map, there's an actual literal edge here if you go out far enough. Hopefully it won't be too dark to see. Yeah, there it is. I have no idea what this represents, if it provides some limit for the canvas they can build the age on or anything. There's no clipping on it. If I turned gravity back on, I'd just fall right through it, so that's not it. And here's a corner of the map. I know it looked like we also saw one of the other corners, but that was actually just some draw distance illusion. So I guess walking straight in from the corner is the best way to make sure we get back to civilization. Maybe? At least it's not night anymore. There it is. That low draw distance can really get you lost quick. Using those outer borders to get your bearings might be more necessary than it first seems. Okay, so here's the backside of the hill cave that leads down to the Maze Runner. Sometimes these are walkable surfaces, other times you pass right through them. There really isn't a pattern there. And it's doing that thing with the whatever this is called, where it removes a chunk of the space for no apparent reason. It did this in the middle of the mechanical fortress too, so I guess the common theme is that there's a room there you're supposed to enter from somewhere else. Now here's a fun area to fly around in. We get to look at some of these crystals from angles the game probably didn't want us to. Now to be clear, there are no reflective surfaces here. These are all window textures similar to the ones we saw in a couple places on the mechanical age. See what I mean? I don't think anyone planned for that urn to be seen through a crystal like this. And they also bring attention to a few other mundane objects. Actually, maybe the urn just isn't being affected at all. Yeah, there you can see it. The urn itself doesn't actually change. It's just an illusion with the light and dark backgrounds. Or the crystal's not really a background. Or maybe it is sorta, I don't know. Look at that light crystal in the distance there. It's not quite like the urn because it is affected a little bit by the crystal, but still not that much. So there are a lot of moving parts that determine how the crystals work. Some are lighter, some are darker, some are more opaque. Then there's the matter of how they combine when more than one is aligned within a line of sight. And then some target objects react differently, like the urn. Maybe someone else can use these different angles to figure out all the algorithms. There's no way I'm doing that. Or somebody just look at the code, that'd probably be easier. I'm surprised they didn't just go with pink rocks like all the other version. I thought these towers were solid. Well, now I'm stuck on the main path again. Oh well. I don't think there was really anything left to see out there anyway. So let's move along. Alright, here's the area everyone's been waiting for, the underground Maze Runner tunnels. Well, I guess based on how high up we're floating right now, maybe we're still level with the surface. But the game doesn't really think about that, as it forgets all the previous rooms as you move from one to the next. As you can see, the door is right there, but the game has already even forgotten about the hallway that's supposedly behind it. Although we can see down the shaft that leads to the maze. We'll be heading down there in a minute here. Look at all the light bulbs and how their glow always shines through everything. This is the exact opposite of what we saw in the MYST planetarium when the stars disappeared whenever anything else was in the same line of sight. So why don't we see this while playing the game? I think they only shine through other wall textures, so you can't see them through the Maze Runner, which is the only thing that actually gets in the way from the walkway. Still, I guess when they were making this, they still had to make sure they didn't put any wall textures in that would expose the bug from anywhere you could stand in the game. Alright, so let's see what happens when you land inside the Maze Runner without going in the proper way. Not surprisingly, it's only a partial rendering that's just enough to give you an impression of it while trying to peek through the windows from outside. It doesn't give us the button to open the door, so we're stuck in here now. But there's no clipping on the ceiling in either direction, so we could leave if I just reversed gravity. And there's no panel here either. Or maybe there is? Let's try to do this blind. Well, that's not it. Where's my mouse? Well, I don't think even gravity hacks will get us out of this one, so let's start this one over. Okay, now we've got gravity pulling quite a bit stronger this time. Obviously this is so we can get to the maze by the end of the week. The Maze Runner actually has to fall a pretty long way to get there. That may not be obvious if you've only ever seen this part through the Maze Runner windshield. This vertical tunnel might remind you of the elevator shaft on Mist Island. But remember, the elevator shaft would only fully render one floor or the other, depending on which side the elevator was on, leaving the other floor weirdly incomplete. Unlike that place though, the rendering here is dependent on your position, not the Maze Runner, so the maze won't be missing anything when we land down there. I wish I knew of a way to send the Maze Runner down while we're flying around. I think it would be really cool to see the Maze Runner in motion from the outside. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out a way to do that. It appears the control panel that steers it turns off whenever you're not in the chair. And there's no chance at starting it up then leaving. You just saw how eager it was to pin us to the chair. You know how the compass inside the Maze Runner says you're facing southeast when you first get in? Well, it's not lying. You can trace it throughout this fall here if you're so inclined. So let me just align this up here and let's start exploring the maze. Oh, I guess there's no reason to expect any clipping down here either. No big deal. Just have to make a save game up there and neutralize gravity next time. These pillars are insanely long. I guess it's so you can't see the bottom from the Maze Runner, but is that actually better? I mean, if this is what you see this far down, that still looks bad, right? Because, wait a minute. Something is wrong here. What? This can't be real. This is not possible. Holy shit! I must have imagined that. Um, okay, so we're here at the starting point of the maze. Somehow. And once again, the proportions might be different from what you expected. They may not have seemed this large from inside the fast maze runner. Unfortunately, this means the walking speed is really slow. Know what that sound is? Hold on. Never mind. So, as I was saying, this is walking speed, and that's not going to work. Running speed is a little better, but still might take a while to get through this maze. Oh yeah, that sound. Figured out what it is? It's supposed to be the effect of the maze runner passing between the columns. But now we can see it's actually triggered by the player position a little before that. And apparently it works. Had me fooled anyway. So that's the distance between two of the stations. At least these two. We've got a long way to go, but take heart. There's plenty to see around here to keep things interesting. Here's a great example. This underpass provides some scenery while you're riding down the track. But upon closer inspection, it's a big bag of nothing. Doesn't go anywhere. Now, I'm not sure, but I suspect even if we did have a full 3D map of the maze, there wouldn't be any functional track in this spot. But who knows, I guess. I'm just going to skip over this way because I'll take whatever shortcut I can. And this track goes up this time. But remember, I can't move up and down, so I'll just pass under this one. Hey, this cross track actually has a track this time. I guess one going underneath would need that. Still doesn't go anywhere. This location is even more out in the boonies. The rest of the maze is all south of here. How do they expect us to even believe this stuff? I'm gonna try to cut this one even harder this time. We'll see if this map maintains any consistency, or if it just glazes over and forgets everything when you stray a wee bit too far outside the lines. Oh, there it is, never mind. Didn't test it hard enough, I guess. By the way, there's no background here. You probably noticed it's just the same solid color void we saw even when we were up by the maze runner. And here's yet another dead, fake track underneath. That's kind of old news by now. Actually, if you look at this, this is a lower track, and it's missing whatever that middle part's called. Now that would be fine as long as there wasn't an angle along the ride somewhere that would expose it. But this side looks like it might have a pretty good downward look at it right here. So I wonder what it would look like heading backwards on this track. Remember, a lot of these nodes have wrong tracks that lead to dead ends. We'll check out a couple of interesting ones down the line, but that won't be for a while. Oh yeah, something else about this noise. It goes both directions. Of course. So you can see how it takes your direction of movement into account too, so it doesn't play too many times. I guess it sends the signal early so that the peak of the waveform hits by the time the maze runner gets to the pillars. Or maybe the windshield creates an illusion as to where the sides of the maze runner actually are. Or maybe it's a combination. I hate middle grounds though. All right, so we were just heading east, so this leads northeast and eventually to the northernmost part of the maze. But that's not the right direction. We're going south. And here's something new. You can already see what's coming up from here. You can also almost kind of sort of see it from here through the glare of the windshield while you're playing. But now that we're free of that, we can see just how much of a cardboard stage prop it really is. And it's quite pixelated too. Oh my goodness. That is unpleasant. Once again, we see how the Maze Runner sound effect isn't actually caused by the Maze Runner at all. It's just a cave sound effect. Good grief, this is annoying. And I guess it overrides it with the normal Maze Runner sound when you leave. That makes me think the code was event-driven rather than state-driven. I'm not sure that's as stable. Either way, the noise would stop if we were actually in the Maze Runner right now. Oh boy, I don't think I can handle this for the entire rest of the maze, so I'm gonna back this up and traverse this over again. Alright, today is your lucky day. I know they all look the same, but we are in the same spot. I did all that over again offline, so you don't have to. Except this time, thankfully, it's quiet. How did I do it? Well, it was quite simple, really. Once I got to this point, I just tiptoed around the cave. And as long as I stay far enough away from the middle of the cave, the noise shouldn't kick in again. So onward we proceed. I remember this next part. The track yanks the Maze Runner side to side, somehow without the Maze Runner flying off the track. And now we know if it did fly off, it would infinite fall into the deep void. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about this. It's actually faster to run diagonally because forward and sideways movements are two independent vectors. So I guess it multiplies your speed by the square root of 2. About a 41% boost. I guess I could run through the rest of the maze like this, but it wouldn't be very scenic. Okay, so after heading south twice, the next direction is west. Oh no, that's right. There's another one of these caves coming up. Probably makes that terrible noise too. I don't want to go through that again. Okay, so let's think about this. This path does start out heading west, but it then curves to the south. So if we just head southwest in a straight line, we should shortcut it. But let's make sure we're out of the way enough to guarantee we won't catch that sound again. Let's line this up. That looks good. Let's go. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. Now hit the diagonal. Should get us there pretty quick. I remember when I first discovered this diagonal thing, I thought, oh, look what I found. I gotta show the speedrunners. Might improve their 1-minute times. But of course they were already using it. What was I thinking? And I think I see it, as long as it's the right one. Yep, just skip the whole curve. Maybe it would have looked cool from the inside, but after last time, I think the quiet is worth it. Besides, outsmarting the game is pretty satisfying. Feels good, man. And now we're heading southwest. It's the first correct compass direction that takes off along a diagonal. You know, it's the part where they start introducing two directional sounds playing at once. And I think the turns on this path are even sharper than those on that other one. Wait a minute. I didn't hear a sound. Did I break it? Is there a bug here? I don't remember any of these missing during the game. Did they switch to a different triggering mechanism halfway through? That doesn't sound right. Wait, what's going on? This is the right direction. Where's the rest of the maze? Oh no. Not again. Why? This doesn't make any sense! There isn't even supposed to be any gravity. Ow! That hurts! God, frickin' they put us back at the start again. Okay, let's do this again. And no, I ain't gonna skip it for you this time. I'm not gonna put any more work into this. I'm just gonna grit my teeth, get this over with, and you will know my pain. And I guess hopefully this won't happen next time. That's one. Next direction is west. Actually, north, west, north, east, east, south. What if we go east here? Aside from, well, that entire half of the maze disappearing down there, the north half of the maze seems to be holding together pretty well. So if we can skip a bunch of steps here, then retracing it won't be as bad as I thought. The suspense is killing me. I guess we don't really have anything to lose, though. Okay, yeah, that looks like the curvy path right after the first cave. So there are 2 stops between here and where we left off before. That's the good news. The bad news is I don't know why this time would be any different than last time. Once again, we're up against the second loud cave. Maybe that's where I went wrong before. Might as well try going through it, even though the only thing we know about it is that it's gonna suck. Ugh. I guess try to enjoy the pretty views around here as best you can. I suppose it's plausible there could be an invisible trip switch in here that tells the game to render one half of the maze or the other. That actually makes sense to a point, since this is about halfway through the maze. It's just the worst possible place for it to be. I'm just not sure if we're even supposed to be looking at any of the textures they put in here. It seems to me that this kind of issue could have been easily avoided. All right, I bit the bullet. Did I at least unlock the rest of the maze to go along with this racket? Come on, whoosh. Yes, I did it, maybe. Pretty sure anyway. So let's try to power through the rest of this without going crazy. Actually, I think I have an idea. I know what happened last time I had an idea. But I'm sorry, this blaring abomination makes it worth it. If there's one more chance to get rid of this noise, I will take it. I will be right back. Okay, so far so good. This looks promising. The idea for bringing along the maze runner this time is that its stopping is what turns off that noise. So I've already paid my dues and gone through the cave, so that should get around the disappearing maze problem. And now we just have this lighter ambient sound, which I think I like even better than the total silence. Hey, look at that faint glow over there. Kinda covers up the bumper in a weird way. But no more messing around. We've spent way too much time getting stuck in this one part. You know, if that cave really does determine which half of the maze renders, I guess you could hypothetically trigger it the wrong way going either direction. So I wonder what would happen if I set the other half of the maze to disappear while going back that way. Oh, if there was ever a welcome sight. No, this is a welcome sight. As long as there aren't any more noisy caves ahead. At least, there shouldn't be any more with mandatory render switches. I guess we'll already be putting this to the test right now. This isn't exactly the most memorable part of the ride, so I'm guessing it's pretty subtle. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a noise here. I like the way these look though. They don't grab your attention with ear-splitting noises, but they seem to serve their aesthetic function well enough. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Too bad, this is good scenery. What the? Oh my god! Have I offended the mist gods or something? Why am I not falling this time? Come on, let's get out of here, please. Let's get out of here. Just when you let your guard down, you know? I don't know what to make of this. I don't mean to bust out the conspiracy theories, but, well, I should probably just be happy we didn't lose any progress this time. Wow, this one's got a lot of paths coming out of it. Hold on, let me think. Southwest, west, northwest. It's this one. Yeah, as you get further in the maze, more and more wrong paths show up. Kinda doesn't matter to you if you already used the earlier part of the maze to figure out the sounds like you were supposed to. If they really wanted to screw with the people who didn't figure it out though, they could have thrown in a couple loops instead of just having all the wrong paths go to separate dead ends. Then there might also be multiple correct ways through the maze too, depending on where the loops were. Come to think of it, that could have some interesting implications with the sounds. Okay, so yes, there is another cave here. But we don't have to go through it unless there's another render switch in there. But I know there's no render switch in there because this isn't even the right way anyway. That is over here. But remember I said I was going to go down a wrong path eventually, and this is the one I want to show. So I just need to go around it instead of through it. Well, I could go through it, but you understand. This thing actually looks more interesting from over here anyway. It has the shape of a double-sided gramophone. But it functions more like a bullhorn. Sheesh. So this isn't our destination either. Even though this is a wrong track, there are two more tracks heading out of it. And this is the one I want to show you. Unfortunately, we're not playing the realMYST Masterpiece Edition right now, because that version actually hid an Easter egg over here. Am I gonna tell you what it is? No, I'm not gonna tell you what it is. It's bad enough I spoiled where it is. Go get the game and look for it yourself. Or this is the internet. I'm sure someone out there will ruin it for you. I already started this series before Masterpiece came out. And I gotta finish what I started. That's why we're playing this one. So anyway, this version isn't nearly as exciting over here, but it does have clearer visibility than Masterpiece. So as you can see, there's another track running along in the background there. Yes, you can also see this from the Maze Runner, but now we can actually go investigate what it is. The first thought you have, of course, is that it's just another one of those bogus tracks like we saw near the start of the maze. But this would be kind of a strange place to put it, wouldn't it? Aha! This is another real track in the maze. So it's also true that you can see the dead end we just came from as you're driving along this one. Isn't that exciting? At least that's the only point I found where you can see separate legitimate tracks from others. I'm sure you're completely lost now. Well, this is a different wrong track in the maze, and yet there are still multiple paths emanating from here. So we're in the unique position of tracing our way back to the main path without ever having been here before. It's not actually hard to figure out though. You just look at where the turntable is already pointing. It has to be prepped for the first arrival, you know? Maybe that's why they didn't put any loops in here after all. You'd risk arriving at a station with the turntable facing some other direction. That's interesting. As it is, the worst the maze gets is you can go 2 steps off the right path before guaranteeing a dead end. I'm pretty sure you never have to backtrack more than twice anyway. But it's still a pain in the rear if you think you have to map it out, especially toward the end where there are more wrong paths. You really risk getting disoriented. I think it's good game design. I almost feel left out just going the right way in the Maze Runner all the time. So this is the main path again. And better yet, we're 1 step ahead of where we departed from it. Wait, which one did I come from? Where am I again? Oh, right, of course, it's this one. It has the big right turn. The left one isn't gonna do that. Yeah, so the big right turn is accompanied by this vague rock outline on the right side. I guess it's to give the impression the Maze Runner almost hits the wall as the track tilts toward it. By the way, it appears that we have in fact gained a little height during this run. It's not nearly as bad as when I covered the mechanical age. Now it just creeps up on you over time. Did you notice how the support post was sticking up through the track? Well, this one's even more pronounced, since it's at the steepest part of the tilt. But perhaps more intriguing is that the giant wall disappears when you look straight at it. You can't do this from the Maze Runner, so why wouldn't it disappear? But also, why would it? Maybe coming over here will help answer these questions. Now, I can't figure this out. Is this just a dumb mistake, or is it something too clever for me to understand? The rock doesn't completely disappear this way, it just ends up showing a different part of the rock during the ride. That looks bungled to me, but what does a schmuck like me know? It must have been what the art director intended. Alright, one more stop before the finish. By the way, you can always know which way you're facing because the north and northwest stops are always darker for whatever reason. But it doesn't matter now. It's not like we're gonna get lost, because there's only one way to go from here. It's kinda interesting they don't put any wrong tracks on the final node. And here we are. We finally made it. This is the end of the maze. I almost feel like I ruined it. Now the big wall just looks like a giant copy pasta. There's certainly no way to see the edges of it from the Maze Runner this time, because suddenly that's important. I'm going all the way around the wall because going through the tunnel is just the normal view. I mean, I would go through the wall, but I've learned my lesson. I don't want any more obnoxious, unexpected events. Oh! Well, I guess this is tolerable, all things considered. And it was a good run. We don't really have much left to do anyway. I guess it's just kind of interesting to see the void as a backdrop for the tunnel. Hey, wait, I can see that light there. I don't think that was happening this way. Yeah, see, these don't shine through the wall. I mean, sure, this direction doesn't matter since you don't turn around when you backtrack, but what's the rule? Unsolved mysteries aside, here's the big question for the end of the maze. Let's hurry up and get there. This is getting to me. All right, now, here's the big question for the... Nope. Turn this off. I can't do this. All right, this is better anyway. The question is, how far away have we traveled from the original starting point? The maze itself was too vast to map out directly, but we can still try to make a basic diagram of it. For simplicity, let's assume all the turntables are placed on lattice points equidistant from each other. That is not a safe assumption, but let's go with it anyway. The correct path through the maze is north, west, north, east, east, south, south, west turning south, southwest, west, northwest, northeast, north turning east, southeast. Well, what do you make of that? Was there any point to the ride? Is the render switch cave that magical? No, of course the issue is that our map is not to scale. But it does hint that the final station is somewhere very near the start. So let's go back to the start and see if we can find it. So which way should we go to look for it? Well, the last direction in the Maze Runner is southeast, so the track comes from the northwest. The beginning of the maze takes up the whole northern part of the map though, so I would guess the end of the maze doesn't actually go as far north as the lattice would indicate. So I believe our best option is to head west. Oh, come on! Well, I guess this isn't so bad, although I have no idea where we are. And how are we going sideways? I wonder if I'm just being played again. Like this is some giant game of beer pong, and I am the ball. Yep, there it is. I should have known. Must I have no dignity? Well, that didn't work. Okay, then, I don't know. I hope the final path keeps going until it winds up somewhere south of here. If it does go this far south, then that nukes any idea those bogus tracks near the beginning in any way come from the end of the maze. Remember, the stop before the finish didn't even have any wrong tracks on it. Well, dress me in a robe and call me Atris. This room is the only part of the second half of the maze that's immune to the render switch. Not even the rest of the tunnel can say that. And there's a vague outline of something else in the distance there, but I get the sense I don't actually want to go over there. Is this little dot always the same size on the screen? Yeah, it sure looks like that's what's going on. It also turns red when you come back here, which you can't even do in the normal game because of this. Clipping. It's been a while. Yeah, this place is too normal. Actually, I think I could do something about that. Nope. Remember this old trick? Yes, we've got no clip again. We can explore now. Actually, I should probably stay away from the walls, right? Before... What? Over here? How? All right, let's wrap this up. So, that concludes my behind-the-scenes tour of the Selenitic cage. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're going off my upload history, you might think this took anywhere from 6 months to 4 years to make. Rest assured, it did not. It was about 2 months. So one of my goals is to finish up this series next year, but I'll be working on other projects alongside it as well. There will either be 2 or 3 more episodes in this series, depending on how much there is to see in the remaining ages. So thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Oh. Yeah, of course. Alright, fine.